La Rayo's entourage?
Good evening and welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show with La Rayo's Entourage. And the Joe and Joe Weather Show is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware. They still have plenty of rock salt. There is a salt shortage that is developing across the Northeast and elsewhere. They're at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, 631-756-1125. And the website is omnitruevalue.com. And the way things are going, they're likely to be opening earlier and closing later on Thursday. So once we get that squared away tomorrow, I will certainly let you know about that. And the Joe and Joe Weather Show is also brought to you by Wholesale Holiday Lighting by Giannini of Giannini Landscapers in Lindenhurst, 162 Ocean Avenue in Lindenhurst. You can plan ahead for the next holiday season. At least it gets you out of this winter. And also, if you want to be a holiday decorator, by all means, give them a call, 631-957-5106, 162 Ocean Avenue in Lindenhurst. So I had the feeling today as I was putting up my posts with my forecasts and my thoughts on Thursday, and it seems like we've been under a perpetual winter storm watch or a winter storm warning since the end of January. It just
Yeah.
we're getting a whole day break tomorrow before this next weather system is coming in. You're going to notice that our snowfall maps are going to differ tonight. There are requests on the chat board, Joe, from Bill Rogers that he wants you to expand your coverage area so that you can include Vermont.
Vermont.
No, that's where he is. The guy wants to know about Vermont. You can't blame him.
Yes. Yes. Well, you're not in Vermont, are you? Or
Me? No.
no?
It's cold enough to go down in this basement. Of course, the serious news with regards to the winter weather and continues to just wreak havoc in Texas, and we're hoping that we can get Addison Green on. That's going to depend on where he is and whether he has power or not, because a lot of folks in Texas are out still without power for 3 days. Got to -2 this morning, Joe, in Dallas Fort Worth, and some of the aerial pictures. Really, having lived in Texas, it's pretty shocking to see snow on the ground in Houston, snow on the ground in, well, maybe a little less shocking in Dallas, but still shocking enough. It just doesn't happen very often. But just to give everybody perspective, the average high temperature in Houston is 61 this time of year. And they just went over the freezing mark now. I think they're 34, last observation that I took. So, I mean, that would be the equivalent here. What they're getting down there, the equivalent here would be a day where temperatures didn't get out of the single numbers and everybody was below zero or well below zero at night into the morning hours. And then throw in a 20 or 25 mile an hour wind and a couple of feet of snow on the ground. You kind of get the picture of what it feels like for those folks who don't see this stuff that often.
I've heard a lot of people, the major news sources that are all saying that this is the worst situation Texas has ever had in terms of wintry weather in the last century. And it made me scratch my head and wonder. So what I did was I did a little bit of research today. I went back over the last 40 years in the New York Times. I have access to the New York Times, and I just simply typed in the Times snow, Texas, very cold temperatures. And actually, I came up with several situations where they have had some really nasty weather over the last 40 years or so. Here is one example. I'm sharing it on the screen right now. This is from January 14th, 1985. Please note that the headline here for this story in the Times says, "Worst storm in a century paralyzes parts of Texas." And I don't expect anybody to read the entire article, but when you read it, it sounds almost like what they're going through right
Well,
now.
they're referencing that. I heard it referenced that this is the worst. This is the worst in over 30 years. So they're referencing this 1985
But I found
event.
also, Joe, I found one in 2011, one in 2002, this one in 85. And I said to myself, these kind of situations that Texas is going through right now probably happen on average about once every 10 or 15 years when they have a significantly strong Texas or blue norther and a storm system that interacts with the norther and produces lots of snow and lots of ice. Uh, this is the way the mainstream media makes this sound. It's making it sound like this is like a once in a lifetime or
Oh,
once in 100-year event,
no,
and it
I would
really,
just, the only thing I would say is, the one thing I think that sets this one apart a bit from the others is the fact that we had winter storm warnings up for every county in the state at the same times. I mean,
right,
I don't think that, at least in that I can remember in the last 40 years, I don't ever remember anything like that happening. But you're right though. This is, they do get them from time to time, but this one's kind of pushing the edge, I think, of extreme because it covers the whole. It's the whole state. It's east,
right.
west, north, south, all at the same time. Sometimes it gets bitter cold in western and northern Texas, and it's in the 60s and 70s along the coastal bend, and there's some big storm in between. But yeah, this is everybody. This is like these are generational events. Every generation will tell their kids, I remember when
Yeah.
we had to go to school, walk to school in snow for miles both ways. Well, in which case it'll probably verify there since they can't drive. The roads are still, a lot of the roads are still closed. Okay, Richard Melikar hitting super chat, and we thank you very much. But Richard, come on, seriously, seriously. Um, uh, Joe. He says we continue have to worry about accumulation. Was too warm today, and the ground will melt anything coming in. Richard, come on,
Where is Richard
seriously.
located?
Richard's here. He's here on Long Island.
So in other words, he feels that the temperatures today, which got
So
to within a few degrees of 50, will
we
preclude.
actually got into the 50s here.
We
Yeah.
got to 49. I'm
So
surprised.
right. So what we're going to the low 20s by morning. We're probably not going to make it much above freezing tomorrow, and we'll be in the upper teens and low 20s come Thursday morning. Are you trying to say that the ground is going to be the ground temperature is going to be 50 through all of that? No, no. Let's get this warm ground thing nonsense out of here once and for all. Okay, I mean, really. First of all, it's not a boilerplate that holds on to the heat when it's heated. It might be warm, but it cool eventually does cool, and it does it a lot faster than you think. And also, I don't care how warm it is the day before, and it could be in the 60s the day before. In snow intensity, the intensity of the snowfall overcomes the effect of the warm ground temperatures from the day before a snowstorm. When you have heavy snow falling, lasts about 10 minutes, and then it's done. So really, stop.
I mean, we had, I think I
Richard. You don't
mentioned
have
it,
to worry about the warm ground. We love you,
I
but you
mentioned
don't
it
have to
last
worry.
week. I mentioned it last week. I think it was on the 9th of February in 2017. We had 62 degrees, a record high temperature for the date at Central Park. And the next day, we had a blizzard.
12 hours after that high, I was driving in S plus in blizzard conditions, so
Right,
and a temperature of 19. So
right.
stop, stop worrying. Okay, they're all concerned. They want every flake to stick. Every flake is sacred. Every flake is great. If a flake is wasted, God gets quite irate. So there. All right. So, shall we take a look at the early call? Bill Rogers wants clarification of these final calls, of these early calls. They are early calls. I can
This,
tell
and
you.
this is,
I can tell you right now, my map's changing. Okay, I made it this
yeah.
afternoon. I really would want it. As soon as I finished it, about 10 minutes later, it's like I got to change this, but I didn't, and I know I have to change it.
No, we're going to have to check. No, there's no question. In fact, I even said on, I posted my map with a weather synopsis, and I actually said that there are two cases or two factors here, which is why I'm calling it my preliminary snowfall outlook. Because, well, first of all, before we go into anything, why don't we take a look at yours, Joe? I
All
mean, you
right.
want to?
Well, first of all, let me get us back on the screen because I just accidentally knocked us off. Uh, one
Gee, it's
second.
gotten awfully black lately.
Good God. Oh Lord, we're in darkness. Hang on, Joe. Just give me a second here. There we go. I hit the wrong there. I had to get rid of our double screen and hide it in the background so I don't accidentally knock it off. Okay, I'll bring up my map first. Before we do that, very quick, welcome to everybody tonight. We've got 69 likes. We got to over 200 yesterday, so let's shoot for 100. If we get over 100, then let's shoot for 200. And we've got a couple of early super chat hits besides Richard Melikar. We've got Wayne Stuckert and Stuckart, I'm sorry, and David Fuller, both hitting super chat. And thank you so much to all three of you as we get going. Okay. Oh, the likes went immediately up to 101. That's wonderful. All right. So Joe and I don't have to worry about getting to 200. Okay. So let us go now to the map in the map that is in question here. Hang on one second, and I will have it up there. So, Joe, I'm doing this over. Okay, I did this early this afternoon. I broad brushed an area of 3 to 6, and then I went 1 to 3 north of there. So, after looking at everything late this afternoon, I'm thinking that line, that 3 to 6 northern line's got to be pushed up further to the north. The reason why I did this is that as much as I think the NAM has the hot hand, there's no question that the NAM has the hot hand. And the NAM has a very aggressive front end snowfall for Thursday. It gives over an inch of liquid in 6 hours, which would be, if every flake sticks, it would be, at least 10. And maybe even a little bit more, because I think when it starts off, it's going to be, fairly cold in the 20s. So there might be some high ratios at the beginning, but I don't know. I wasn't 100%. I just wasn't 100% sold on that yet. And I looked at all the other global models, and the global models seem to be flatter to an extent, not by a lot, but they just seem to be a little bit flatter. And the European in particular is a little bit further south and colder. In fact, it keeps it all snow for me. And northern, doesn't bring any sleet in at all. It keeps it all snow right through Thursday night. It has a longer event, but it doesn't have that, really aggressive punch that comes in that the NAM is indicating. So that just made me a little bit cautious. And I started with this. And to be honest, I could have easily made, instead of making that 3 to 6, I certainly could have made it 4 to 8 instead of 3 to 6. I was toying between 3 to 6 or 4 to 8. And I finally said, you know what, let me just go 3 to 6 for now. And then if the NAM is still punching out big numbers tomorrow, I can, certainly up the amounts, and left the door wide open for me to do that.
Well, I agree that there's a lot of things that you have to consider. The global models indeed have not been all that, tremendous in terms of cranking out a lot of moisture with this system. The NAM, that's the thing that has me scratching my head here and a little worried about what the NAM is saying, because the NAM pretty much is looking more and more like what it looked like on January 31st and February 1st with our giant snowstorm.
Right.
And I'll show that in a moment. Let me bring my my stuff up.
Okay,
Let me
so
just
let me
go to.
let me switch to you so you can do the. Go ahead.
Hold on. I'm going to. Come on. See, now I don't understand why this works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. I'm clicking Control O. There we go. Oh, thank goodness. All right. All right.
Oh
We're in
God.
business. Don't stop me now. I'm rolling. Uh, as Ted Baxter said on election night during a snowstorm. All right. Now we're going to share the screen. Share the screen. And boom. Here's what I have. And you said you broad brushed the 3 to 6. It could have easily have gone 4 to 8. So I have 4 to 8 for much of the area: New York City, Westchester, Rockland, Southern Orange, most of Putnam County, and then higher amounts, as much as 8 to 12, Northwest Jersey, northern, basically, let's say north of the 84 corridor, on up into Ulster, Sullivan, and Dutchess County. And what is concerning to me, Joe, is that the NAM is once again showing a rather significant FGen or deformation zone, indicating possible heavy snow bands crossing through the immediate New York City metropolitan area around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Thursday. And as we saw in the big snowstorm on February 1st, we get a band like that again, and we could see some spots averaging 2 to 3 inches per hour for several hours, and that could very easily change this 4 to 8 here to maybe 6 to 10 or 6 to 12, and up here, possibly even 12 or more inches. It's a band. In fact, let me bring that. I made a copy of that. Okay, let me get rid of this.
Bill,
So
while you're bringing it up, Bill Rogers, just going back on that the warm ground sun angle thing. It's not that I don't believe in the warm ground or sun angle, but there are specific setups that those apply to, and and again, intensity trumps it all. So if you've got intensity, if you get one of those snow bands like Joe's just pointed out, I don't care what time of the year it is, whether it could be early April. You get under that kind of omega, you're going to accumulate everywhere. So just bear that in mind.
well, we
And
saw
it's
that we saw that in 1982 with the 82 April blizzard, April 6th blizzard. I mean, it was here it is. It's early April, but it was coming down real hard. We even had thunder and lightning
Yeah,
during
so I
that
mean,
event.
intensity trumps it all. Look, if it's a light snow, where the visibility is, where you're talking about snow falling at like normally would accumulate at like a quarter of an inch an hour or a half an inch an hour, then yeah, okay, sure, it'll have a real tough time, and a lot of it will melt uh, before it has a chance to pile up. But once you start getting into borderline moderate or moderate snows of an inch or more an hour, those things, that concept doesn't apply. So there's your F gen. That's that, as Joe has alluded to. And yeah, Joe, I mean, this looks every bit as wicked of the omega that comes in as it did with the storm back on January 31st, February 1st.
And this is the NAM 12 kilometer, and we saw in all the other models either not anywhere near as robust or completely missing our area. For example, let's take a look at the 3 kilometer NAM. You would figure that the 3 kilometer would be, because it has a tighter grid, it would be even more significant. Although now this is the 18Z
Yeah.
3 kilometer, which looks a lot more robust than the 12 Z run. In fact, the 12Z, there it is. Um, and again, if for nothing else, the timing is the same. I mean, we're looking at an event where the both NAM models, the 3 and the 12, are saying 18Z or 1 o'clock in the afternoon is when it's really going to be coming down at its hardest and at its worst. Meantime, if you remember the last big storm, February 1st, the global model, the GFS, they had the active area of omega completely miss us. Take a look. This is uh, this is 18Z. Look where that omega is, and look where it goes. It lifts away to the north and east.
Right.
It
Well,
just gives us
that's
just a
that's
glancing blow.
and that's one of the things with the GFS and the European. They have longer events and colder events where it would be mostly snow, but that we don't really get into the supercharged omega. On the other hand, and I'm thinking that you're thinking this way too. The NAM has had such a hot hand these last 3 or 4 weeks that uh, you want to respect the fact that it has this you know this heavy snow potential, that band of heavy snow potential in the omega, because it got it right. It's gotten it right in every event that we've had, every one. So
Absolutely. And
so
Steve Steve LaPont, in fact, he saw my post on my Facebook page, and he said, "Joe, not 4 to 8. You should have gone 6 to 12." And I wrote back to Steve and I said, "Look, you may very well be right. The 4 to 8 is, just a preliminary shot. If tomorrow I see the NAM showing what it's showing today, and if the other models, the global models, even hint that they're jumping in the boat and going into the NAM camp, so to speak, that 4 to 8 could very easily get pushed up to 6 to 12. I just don't like to go with a big number right off the bat. Not to say the 4 to 8 is not a pretty big number, but it could very well be much higher than what I'm suggesting now. We're just going to have to wait and see. And the other thing the other factor is, um, you're right. The global models are colder and a little bit flatter, a little bit more suppressed, which means that there may not be all that much in the way of sleet and ice mixing in. But if it does start mixing in late in the day or tomorrow night, that could actually put an end to any significant accumulation of snow and maybe even hold the accumulations down. That too is a bit problematic. And
Well, it depends, though. I mean, if you believe the NAM, if you believe the NAM, there's going to be over an inch of liquid on
right,
Thursday afternoon in the cold air. And you'll get almost all the accumulating snow will come on the front end. So
right,
if that's right, if those numbers play out, even if you wanted to come, let's say you wanted to come off 20%, 25%, it still puts down 6 to 8 inches very quickly.
right.
Before it tails off, then it's got then it has the low coming up, and it's got another area of precip at night, which it has this sort of extended area of sleet. I mean, at the end of the day, look, could this wind up being, 6 to 12 or 8 to 12 for everybody? Sure, absolutely. I could see that happening, but I just want to be a little cautious. We went to we saw what happened yesterday. By the way, the NAM nailed that one too, showing a low going so far left. I mean, we wound up with a low that went to Pittsburgh and Buffalo, and of course, the warm air intruded all the way up into New England with this and upstate New York. So I can see the how the colder, slightly weaker solution happens because of the fact that once again you've got something coming into a ridge position. So that right there tells you, you're not dealing with there's no powerhouse here. It's not like you're going to have a deepening low. So you always want to be a little suspect when you're having something that's coming into a ridge position. On the other hand, the ridge this time around, Joe, is flattening as this system approaches because the whole trough is starting to swing eastward. So that means the upper levels are only going to get so warm, and then they're going to start to chill down again. So it's not an easy forecast by any stretch of the imagination at this point. And then Peter Bicker points out too, by the way, and it's a good point. We've seen these things adjust northwest at the last minute this year, so those suppressed offshore tracks on the global models may wind up pushing a little bit more to the northwest, and you wind up with a slightly warmer and a more robust solution. So it's a very, very tough balance here that you kind of you got to be really careful in overplaying and underplaying your hand. Now, Joe's got the European up. I'm going to shut up now, and you can go ahead and do that. Sorry.
All right. No, you're bringing up very good points here. Now, again, this is the intermediate European model. This was initialized at 18Z, 1 o'clock this afternoon. The first frame on the view here is for 1 hour, about an hour ago at 7 o'clock. You can see that this is the storm that came by late last night and this morning. Notice, if you will, the isobars are not terribly tight together, but the pressure gradient is significant enough to provide us with some occasional gusty, strong winds tonight. So if you're going out tonight, as those temperatures fall, the chill factor by late tonight, tomorrow morning, I think will be down in the single digits. So in as much as it warmed up again for most everybody to near or above 50 today, it's going to be quite a different story when you step outside later tonight and especially first thing in the morning tomorrow. No problems for your Wednesday. In fact, Wednesday looks like a bright day and a sunny day out there with maybe just a few thin high clouds, but temperatures will be decidedly colder than they were today. Many places near 50 today. Tomorrow, I suspect temperatures may be almost 20 degrees colder, Joe. only in the upper 20s and lower 30s.
Yep, that's what I
So,
went for.
yep,
Uh,
quite a different story tomorrow. Then, as we move into tomorrow night, it'll start clouding up, especially in the after midnight hours. This particular run of the European wants to start bringing measurable precipitation across eastern Pennsylvania, western New Jersey, and beginning to edge just into the New York City metropolitan area as early as 12Z or 7 a.m. on Thursday. Now, we will assume that for most, that will be snow. Now, notice, if you will, the 540 line, the boundary that usually separates rain from snow, although this is a cold air mass, especially down near the surface. So even places that are above 540, like down here between 540 and 546, this zone probably will see snow and mixed snow and sleet. That'll be for central and southern New Jersey. But all this area, Long Island, northern New Jersey, and up into the Hudson Valley, likely to be all snow. By 1 o'clock, and this is now what the NAM is suggesting will be the peak of the storm, take note of the fact that the green is for areas, the leading edge of the green is 0.15 inches of liquid precipitation. Note also the 540 is now sitting right on top of New York. Notice also that for the Hudson Valley, for my part of the Hudson Valley, for example, we're looking at only about 0.5 to 1/10 of an inch. So it's been snowing, but it's not really been snowing too fiercely or too strongly. It's almost as if the European is trying to hold back and keep the lion's share of the precip to the south. And then look at this, Joe. By 7 o'clock on Thursday night, it looks like the storm system, here it is down here, is getting ready to pull away. And again, all the green and the yellow here is a half an inch of liquid precip. The green, again, is anything above 0.15 inches. But it looks like now it's beginning to get ready to sail away to the east. And by the time we get to, this is now 1 a.m., it looks like the lion's share of the liquid precip is away to the east. We've still got precip, but it looks like it's only leftover. Also note that the 540 is now a little ways north of New York, so maybe some sleet mixing in. Again, this is all if you take this at face value, this
right.
particular run of the European. And then as we continue to move away, maybe that, Friday, it never really clears. We may have a lot of lingering or leftover snow shower and flurry activity during the day on Friday, and you'll have to wait probably until late Friday or Friday night before everything finally clears out and dries out. And then the weekend looks dry and fair with no more precip. But again, a lot of lingering precip on the backside of this system, albeit light and scattered or intermittent on Friday. So what this shows, Joe, at least the European intermediate run, initialized again at 18Z, is that it's a faster moving and a more suppressed type system, and that a lot of the really heavy duty stuff doesn't seem to interact with the tri-state area. I don't have like at Pinnacle Weather, where they give you an idea of what the European is predicting in terms of snow amounts. I don't have that access here on this
Well,
particular
and they don't have the
model.
18Z, Matt. They don't have the 18Z on there.
Yeah,
Uh, but
yeah.
but the idea of it. Well, look, the European has not been the best model of choice. Certainly not been the model of choice this winter. Just because it has something doesn't make it true. I think a lot of us just go to it. A lot of people go to it reflexively because it does work well, or it has tended in the past to work well. I would argue that there have been times that it has not worked well. But again, is it going to be more suppressed? It would go against what we've had this winter, where things have, with some exceptions, there were some things that were suppressed, and they stayed suppressed. If you remember back in January with systems that passed by well to the south, so uh, what we would start to see is would start to see tonight and then tomorrow to follow up as some confirmation if the European starts nudging more to the northwest, and if the NAM continues with this sort of head-on collision course with a really well developed area of warm advection coming up and you get this band, these bands of heavy snow that develop, and that the NAM is right in producing that much liquid during the day. I just, again, I wanted to be cautious at this stage of the game.
Right.
And then tomorrow, look, if tomorrow we can work that part of the equation out. We'll put out final numbers that may be higher than what we have now, and we'll see. We'll just have to
This is the
wait. We'll
other
just have to wait
the,
till tomorrow.
now the other thing that you just saw on the 18Z run of the European, it pretty well it brought that area of green, the 0.15 and greater amount, up into the Hudson Valley, and then took it away by late Thursday night. What was interesting is to me is that here's the 12Z European run, the one that was initialized from this morning, and it came out this afternoon. Notice that the area of significant precipitation never really makes it up into the Hudson Valley. It stays pretty well suppressed through the end of the day on Thursday. And you say, okay, that's it, it's all over. But yet on Friday, notice I said that on Friday we seem to be backlashed by residual precip. And look at what happens. On Friday in the morning, the green finally makes it fully over the Hudson Valley, but it's kind of like an after effect, after a major
Right.
earthquake,
And,
an aftershock, if you
and
will.
by the way, just another point for everybody: the 540 line is an we look at it as where we think the rain snow line is going to be. There are times where it could be as high as 544, 545, even 546,
Yes.
depending on other factors. One thing that we have this time around, those thicknesses are high because there's a ridge over us. So it's reflecting those higher pressures and warmer temperatures in the upper atmosphere, and way up at 18,000 feet. But if you look at, say, from 10,000 feet down, it's all it's all way below freezing. And this surface high is Joe. This surface high is no ordinary surface high. This is a
No.
quality high. This is Arctic air from the what's left of the Arctic air that came down into the plains and down to Texas. We're obviously not getting to the extreme that they got, but that is dense Arctic air, and that is going to be another factor here, because the precip's going to want to go into that. That air is going to be dry. We're going to have low dew points again going into this Wednesday night and into Thursday morning. So how many are we going to lose some of that trying to come into that dry air and it just evaporates? I don't know. The NAM says no, Joe. The NAM I noticed on the Foose had the R2 by Thursday morning. The relative humidity at R2 was over 90%. So, using your rule, that says it does reach the ground pretty quickly. But new
Right.
NAM comes out, and the new NAM will be out in a little over an hour. So we'll see if it follows the European or it just keeps right on going with this, headlong bowling alley heading down for the head pin, and we're it.
I like the I like to use the R1 to determine when the snow
I thought it was
makes
the
it around.
R2.
The R1, when it gets to 80%, in my humble opinion, that's when it's the atmosphere at the low levels is certainly moist enough for the snow to make it all the way down to the ground. 70% plus a zero on the vertical motion, there's your precipitation. These are all little things that we've all come to learn over all of these many years. And I hope it's not true. Somebody told me, or was it you, Joe, that they're planning to decommission the NAM next year?
Yes, they are.
They can't do that.
That's what they
And this is
said.
from the guy, and this is from the guy who 5 years ago was saying, "Get rid of it.
I
Get rid of
never
it."
said that.
No, I said it.
You said
I
it.
said
Yeah,
it
I
when
never
it was
said
that
that.
one storm in 2016, January 2016, where all the models, the global models, were saying for that storm like 4 to 7 or 8 to 10 or whatever. And here comes the NAM, 25 to 30 inches. Said, get rid of that stupid thing. That's not going to happen.
And
And
I
what
was sitting
happened? The
across.
last
I
minute,
was sitting across the way, just kind of waving that piece of paper, going, "The NAM, Joe. The NAM." All right. So I have the NAM 3 because you mentioned it, and we have more snow coming for Texas. Although it doesn't look nearly as robust as what they had Saturday night into Sunday. But there is going to be more ice and certainly freezing rain in South Texas. The winter storm warnings are up there. Now, this is going to start to push up to the northeast. Our cold high tomorrow's no problem here in the eastern part of the United States. Of course, here comes the moisture starts to really ramp up Wednesday night. This is Thursday morning at 7 a.m. And the 3 kilometer NAM has a ton of freezing rain in North Carolina and Southern Virginia, which is why they have winter storm warnings up there. But look at all that dark blue, and inside that dark blue, Joe, we got that band of purple again over there in West Virginia. That's heavy snow. That's that 14-inch an hour rate snows. But those dark blue heavy bands hold together pretty solidly as we go through midday and early afternoon. Look at that. That's right over New York City, Long Island, northern New Jersey, and then that continues on to the northeast. And then, of course, once that advection is done, you start to see the precipitation lighten up. And it may, at this point, when you lose the intensity, it goes over to for some areas, what looks like a long period of sleet for the overnight. And then it's just kind of piddles away. We only go out to 1 a.m. here on the 3 kilometer. The 12 kilometer NAM today was about the same. Maybe on the 12 kilometer NAM just had more snow that went further to the north, Bill Rogers. So pay attention now because you can see it go up to Vermont here. But I'll just roll it back again. And the 12 kilometer NAM is a little bit more robust with the snow in North Texas. And then you see that freezing rain going into northwest Louisiana, northern Mississippi. And then now here come those dark blue heavy snow bands on the 12 kilometer NAM, also evident. And this is at 7 p.m. And you start to bring in some sleet along the coast there over long. It's not completely sleet, by the way. There's some blue in there too. So I think that's a factor of intensity. And then it generates this another surge of precip during the overnight into Friday morning before it finally pulls away to the northeast, and then we're done. You see the leftover snows, and the NAM pushes the snow all the way up, almost into northern Vermont and New Hampshire here. And I can tell you, Joe, you and I both know a lot of events that the global models sometimes have a really tough time pushing that snow north of up to Albany, and you think it's never going to make it there, and it not only makes it there, but it makes it all the way up. So
Yes.
so the NAM is suggesting that this is going to be an all the way up affair. Here's the 18Z GFS. And you know something, the 18Z GFS, Joe, which gives you a little support here for the NAM, because it also develops some heavy snow bands in Virginia, and you see them there. Now you're right, the Omega was weaker, but it still tries to do something with this as it pushes that up to the north. And again, also a little bit of a flatter, slightly colder solution, not as cold as the European, but even the GFS winds up putting out about 6, 7, or 8 inches out of this as it moves away. The low moves out to the northeast, and weather conditions improve on Friday, and our weather is very good for the weekend. I'm not really favoring any particular solution. Actually, if I was going to favor one solution, I would go to the NAM because the NAM has the hot hand. But all I'm saying is I want to be a little cautious for one more night to be cautious, and then tomorrow I can, make the adjustments. And that's not an unreasonable thing for a forecaster to do. All right. So
Right.
to
Well, we
you
don't
young
put out.
forecasters, you don't need to hit the number correctly because no one is going to remember what you said anyway. Okay, if you're doing this professionally, trust me. Okay,
Absolutely.
you can give them a flake count and they'll tell you that you got it wrong. So don't even bother trying to, you know, you want to get the best forecast you can. So take your time in doing it. By the way, on that note, Joe, Frank Faldudo on my Facebook page made a very, very interesting point, and a very good point, because you and I talk about, and I'm going to come back full screen here for a moment, then we'll go back to do some more map work. But 3, 4, 5 days out, and you and I both throw our hands up in the air because you're looking at what may happen, and people are already throwing out numbers of 12 inches, 18 inches, or whatever the double-digit number happens to be. How high can you go? That's always seems to be the battle. But he points out that uh, people on their apps, I don't want to mention whose apps they are because I think we all kind of know whose apps these belong to, that are tied to. There's no human input. Models are producing the forecast and the snow numbers, so they come off basically right off the snow forecast map. So you know what? If the map puts 33 on there, your app is going to say 33 inches, and that's what can. And then suddenly they tell somebody and they tell two people and so on. It becomes like the Breck shampoo commercial. And suddenly everybody is talking these double digit numbers. And it's very frustrating for us because then folks come to us and say, well, I heard. I love of all the things you can gossip about. Well, I heard. Where do you hear this? Where do you hang out that all you people do is talk about snow? Why don't you do what normal people do when they gossip, or they talk about gossipy stuff, not how many. I mean, how much snow is going to fall tomorrow.
What's so funny is the fact that when I was at News 12, we had just started getting into promoting the News 12 weather app, and on one of the people I used to work with, my night news anchor, Suzanne Colucci, came up to me one day and says, "How come you're saying for the amount of snow when the snow is going to begin and how much? How come you're saying one thing and the app is saying something completely different?" And I looked at it, and it was one of those apps where it goes out like 10 days in advance, and I'm only forecasting for 7. And it was a totally different, I didn't even know to this day what the app was based on, but it was certainly not based upon what I was saying and what I was predicting on air. So you got, I'm just totally befuddled as to where the information to, produce these apps, these weather
Well,
apps.
being that you are a card carrying member of the Society for the Revival of the Rotary Telephone, it's not likely that you would have those apps on your device. So a lot of devices come with those, with weather apps automatically included, and you know what? You can't even delete them if you want to. Uh, so I never look at mine. I put mine. I don't even look at it. I couldn't uninstall it, but I disabled it. So there. Scott Donig just hitting super chat tonight. He said, "Isn't it great not having to worry about coat and tie and makeup?" Yes, it is great.
Yes,
It is
yes,
great. Both of us are au natural, including my hair
yes,
color.
absolutely.
Yes, Joe, they dye your white in beautifully every 2 weeks. They certainly do. Okay, let's get back to what's going on. Um, let's go. Wait, before we do that, I just want to check one thing. And Daniel Kirby says, Johnny Quest is at 3,500 feet above sea level in northwestern Virginia. He says, can the air at that layer be warm enough where you're raining down there and it's freezing rain down at the bottom? Oh, sure. Absolutely, it can. Now, I got to look specifically for your place to see whether that is the case or not. So why don't we do this? Let's get a tight, we'll do this for Johnny Quest because Johnny is one of our moderators. So let's bring up the GFS, uh, and I can pull up a sounding.
You gonna get a sounding here?
I'm going to pull up a sounding. I don't know. I'm just going to pull a sounding up in Northwest Virginia, and hopefully I hit a mountaintop. So let's see if I get this right. Let's also go close up on the region so that I have a better shot of hitting a mountaintop. By the way, speaking of mountaintops, Joe, I was checking down in Blairsville, Georgia, where my little cabin is, and it has not gone above freezing there for the last 3.5 days. It snowed last night, and the high today was just 30, and when I last checked the temperature at 6 o'clock, it was down to 21. So Uh, they were colder today than up here. So I've pulled up this point. This is
Tough.
what? Now I don't even know what if I pulled the valley or a mountain. But if you look at the sounding, now Johnny Quest, you can see the little red dot. I don't know if you can see the little red dot on the screen, but if that's close to where you are, the freezing line on the sounding is this dashed line right up here. So the red line is the sounding air temperature. It stays below freezing. So at least in the world, according to the GFS, you'll see snow up there at 3,500 feet. Doesn't look like there's any, there's a warm layer. I mean, it gets close to the zero line at about 10,000 feet, but it doesn't actually nose through it. So maybe you will get snow up at that level. We'll see. So let's run through the winter storm warnings tonight, where we have them in Texas, Oklahoma. This time we don't have the whole state of Texas. We only have about half the state of Texas under either a winter storm warning or a winter weather advisory. The warnings include Houston and Dallas. Dallas for snow, Houston for freezing rain. Winter storm warnings for the northern two-thirds of Louisiana, all of Arkansas, almost all of Oklahoma, the northwestern third of Mississippi, western Tennessee. Memphis going to get another round of big snows there. Winter storm watches for much of Missouri, southeast Kansas, most of Kentucky, east central and eastern Tennessee, western and north central North Carolina, virtually all of Virginia except the southeast, or virtually all of West Virginia, two-thirds of Pennsylvania, most of New Jersey, the southern half of New York State south of I-90, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Long Island, and there you go. Um, Such is the extent of the latest round of winter storm watches and winter storm warnings. I've got the current temperatures, Joe, by the way, on the hazards map. I've got the temperature and dew point plots in Texas, and Houston International Airport is at 34 with a dew point of 17, an east-southeast wind at 10 miles an hour, and a wind chill of 26 under a 4,200-foot overcast. Let's go up further north. We'll head up toward Dallas-Fort Worth, where right now in Dallas Addison Airport. I didn't know Addison Green had an airport named after him. Um, Dallas Addison Airport is at 18 with a dew point of 8, an east-southeast wind at 10 miles an hour. Overcast, 11,000 foot overcast. They're getting ready to snow. There's some snow out to the west there. You can see the extent of the winter storm warnings. You think we were looking at a map of New York State with these temperatures. I mean, it is really just astounding that that polar air went all the way down the way they did. But it has come off those extreme numbers that we saw yesterday, and again this morning. Many lows in Oklahoma and in North Texas were down with minus single digits. There's a satellite loop tonight. The skies have at least attempted to partially clear along the coast, although there's still some clouds to the west. And now you can see that shortwave that is coming out of New Mexico and into West Texas, which is going to be the storm system that we're looking at here for later Wednesday night and Thursday. The radars are quiet. WPC between this and there's a cold front on Monday that'll produce some rain and snow showers, but the bulk of what you're seeing here is from the system for Wednesday night, Thursday. They've got an inch and a half of liquid, Joe. Let's say 3/4 of that, so an inch and a quarter of that is from the system for Thursday, and then it tails off a bit, but it still has half-inch plus numbers going all the way up into upstate New York. The their probability maps, the latest ones, which were updated late this afternoon, I have the probability of at least 2, and you can see they're tending to favor more the inland areas than the coast, but even at the coast, they have a 50% or greater chance of at least 2, and that runs down into northern West Virginia and northwestern Virginia, and 4, probability of 4, 50% to about New York City to just north of Philadelphia, and then you've got the 80 to 90% in northwest New Jersey, and then right up to about your house, Route 84 and points north. And I also did the probability of freezing rain because this is going to be important in some areas, particularly down in Virginia. This is a probability of at least a tenth of an inch of ice covering much of central and southern Virginia and northern
Wow.
North Carolina. And also down into Texas, you see this very large area of at least a tenth of an inch of ice from eastern Texas into northern Louisiana, southern Arkansas, a quarter of an inch, an 80% probability of a quarter of an inch in parts of East Texas and northwest Louisiana, and also an 80% probability of at least a quarter of an inch in south central Virginia and north central North Carolina. That actually, the 50% line of that extends all the way up into southeastern Pennsylvania. So there's a lot. There's a lot to this to this system. And the long range. Let's give a quick look at the upper air to see if we can get any clues about what's going to happen as we get toward the end of the month. I think Joe, you and I both agree that next week looks a bit calmer. Our trough lifts out. There's no block around at the moment. There's another trough that comes in early next week that pushes a cold front through, and we have this, rather long fetch northwest flow in the upper atmosphere, which is, is a cold, dry flow, unless there's a short wave in there that we can't, really see. Then another vortex forms in western Canada. Part of that energy drops down into the west, and then it wants to drop that vortex. Now, here's a change from yesterday, Joe. The GFS was trying to take this vortex and move it into the Great Lakes and eventually into the Northeast. Now it's much further north with it, and it's more into eastern Canada and Labrador. We'll see if that verifies. And unlike yesterday, where we had there have been a few runs. Every other run seems to want to bring back the big block over Greenland. This particular run didn't quite do that. That doesn't mean that it's right. So I still think that the idea of some blockiness developing in the longer range is possible when we get into the month of March. That is that's a long range battle that we will live to fight another day, and that day will be tomorrow. So
So are we still taking Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off, maybe, or?
we're definitely taking Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
That's a given. We are taking a Saturday off.
Some people on the chat board have been saying that their significant others are not happy with them constantly tuning in on us. One person said, "My wife wants me to give up Joe and Joe for Lent."
Oh, good Lord. Uh, just checking the chat board. We have a couple of, let's call them strays.
Maybe we'll make a decision tomorrow as to whether or not we on Thursday, if indeed we do get into the hot and heavy part of this storm, let's say around midday, whether or not we
We come on
decide to
early.
do something, during that time frame.
Yeah, no, I'm good with that. Maybe we'll move up the Thursday show early if it's going gangbusters in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
I support that. I support that concept.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I guess that's it for tonight. We're going to keep the show under an hour, which is really
Good.
novel.
And we got
So
217 likes in the pocket, so that's
yes,
nice.
we did. That's the second night in a row with 200 likes. Thank you so much. And David Fuller, Wayne Stuckart, Richard Melicar, Steve Lapointe. It's Lapointe, Joe.
Did I say LaPont?
You said Lapointe. It's Lapointe.
LaPointe. I'll make it
And
I will make it a point to make
to
sure
say
to pronounce
Lapointe.
Steve's names
Okay,
properly.
I gotta move this so I can see because I'm on a second monitor. Oh, and Christine for president hit super chat too. Thank you, Christine for president. I don't know, you're new to the board. Thank you so much for doing that. Joe and I really do appreciate it greatly, and welcome. Oh, and I see Junior is on tonight. Hi, Junior. I'm wearing, I was wearing Junior's shirt. After 4 days in a row, the sweatshirt had to go in the wash from Bayonne Office of Emergency Management. Uh, let's see. My wife caught me on a Patreon Zoom call before the big one a couple of weeks ago and oh, Jesus. Called you a geek with another adjective in front of that. It's okay. It's our secret, Junior. I promise. I won't tell a soul. Okay. Now that I have. Anyhow, just trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to talk to you about, and I guess as always, I'll probably remember after we say goodnight.
I'm sure you will remember, and we'll be here tomorrow night. Tomorrow night should be exciting. Tomorrow night, hopefully, you and I will be more converging on similar numbers for this
And
new
you know,
atrocity.
help Bill Rogers out and extend the northern extent of your map to Vermont and maybe the southern extent a little bit further to the south. It'll make everybody happy. It'll make Bill happy anyway. Would you
I'll
do
see what
that,
I can.
Joe?
I'll see what I can do if
Oh,
I
please
have
do.
scads of time to, just work on this stuff. I was
Yes.
chopping away at old snow, getting everything all set for Thursday, so I don't run into it when
Yeah.
it's time to clear everything off on Thursday afternoon and evening.
Exactly. The Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by our friends at Omni True Value Hardware, 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. They still have plenty of rock salt if you need it. 631-756-1125 is the telephone number. The website, omnitruevalue.com. And I will let you know tomorrow what their hours are going to be on Thursday. They may open early and close late, but we'll find out. And also brought to you by Wholesale Holiday Lighting by Giannini of Giannini Landscapers of Lindenhurst, 162 Ocean Avenue in Lindenhurst. Whether you are getting your house decorated for the holidays or you want to become a holiday decorator, give them a call, 631-957-5106. So tomorrow, regular time, 7:30 Eastern. I'll have a weather in 5 up in the morning, so we can you get a quick update of what maybe the nighttime models have done. Patreon members, you will get a weather in 10 as you've been getting these last couple of days, and then we'll be back at our usual shopping time, Joe, which is at 7:30. Good night, one and all.
Good night.